Billy Bragg has managed to work his way into a lot of bigger and better things since he started out, you know, sort of busking, and now affectionately known as the Bard of Barking. He recently played at the National Ballroom in Kilburn, you may or not know that, and our lad Ian, our man Ian even, he swanned along and asked Billy why he was now to be found playing bigger venues as opposed to smaller halls or pubs.
It's not difficult for me to play, you know, some tiny little boozer somewhere, and no doubt in America next month we'll be playing coffee houses and little places like that. But to be perfectly honest, if you're only going to do one gig in London for 6 months, you might as well do somewhere, you know, I mean, tonight we probably could have sold tickets for 2 nights, but, you know, we just didn't have the time to do 2 nights. So, really, I'd rather do 2 nights here than a night at, say, the Odeon or, heaven forbid, the Wembley Centre, you know, something like that. I'd rather do a couple of this size, which is a fair size and everyone can see from everywhere, and the sound, I know what the sounds are, but it's a nice tall hall, so it shouldn't be too hard.
You appear on a newly released Davy Lamp LP, which features Harlow bands. You do a track with the Neurotics. What's your connection with the band? I mean, how'd you get on the record? Because mostly it's Harlow bands, isn't it?
Well, I've got quite strong connections with the Neurotics because I've done a lot of gigs with them. I did a gig in Harlow last year during the miners' strike. I can't remember the name of the place where it was, but the Neurotics and the Davy Lamp people organised that. That was my first sort of like connection with Davy Lamp. They asked me to sing on that Africa track, and it's the most I could do for the time involved. I came down the studio one day and bashed it out of us. And I'm always, you know, well, we always want to support initiatives like what Davy Lamp are trying to do in Harlow, because Harlow is, just be perfectly honest, you know, I grew up in a similar sort of satellite suburb town in Barking, and it's a bit difficult to get anything released out there, and the fact that the Davy Lamp people get it together themselves and they're getting quite a good coverage with it, I think that, you know, they're doing a phenomenal job, because it's, you know, heaven forbid you have to get out of Harlow and then into London and then, you know, get anyone. I'm surprised the Neurotics have managed to keep at it this long.
Many of our listeners will be familiar with the A13, the road between London and Southend. But I suppose fewer know of it as a song that you do. What's the significance of it in your life?
Really, it's the song I do, A13, is based on the American song Route 66, and I thought it was you know, that song, all those places like Amarillo and Gallup, New Mexico, we all take it for granted just because they sound exotic, that they're really tasty, groovy places to go to, but they're probably not. They're probably just as boring as, you know, Purfleet and all those places, and Harold Wood and all that, you know. They're, you know, it's just pretty dull. So I thought it'd be much funnier if we wrote a song about the A13 to the same tune, which name checks, what does it go? It just name checks Barking and Pitsea, Thunders, Lee Adley, Leon C, Chalkwell, Prittlewell all get a mention. And you always get someone who comes up to you after the game and says, why don't you mention Canby Island? Or something like that, you know. You say, well, because it don't rhyme, mate. It don't rhyme, I'm sorry, it just don't rhyme. No, it goes near it, though.
Change the subject a bit. Do you see an element of hypocrisy in the government's advertisement for gas shares, whilst the TUC's anti-apartheid advertisement was banned by the IBA for being too political?
Yeah, well, I mean, the gas thing, I mean, firstly, I'm really annoyed at someone trying to sell me shares in something I already own as a British citizen. And secondly, it's obvious that it's the £6 billion from that is going to be, that sell-off is going to be used to finance tax cuts for the election. It's so obvious, and it's a political act. It's a complete act, you know, of as you know, you'd expect the Tories to do it, and you'd expect the TUC to support the anti-apartheid movement. So I don't see what's political about. One can be a political advertising, the other one isn't. They're both the same.
How do you go down in the USSR and East Germany?
You need an interpreter in East Germany and in the Soviet Union, otherwise they don't understand nothing. So that slows things down a little bit. But I was, you know, I play electric guitar, sometimes loud and fast, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to see what I was famous for, not diluted, sort of, you know, Billy Bragg. I wanted them to see Billy Bragg full strength, so that's what I did. Well, in the Soviet Union, they don't come to the gigs because they're Billy Bragg fans. I don't even think they come because they're pop music fans. They just come because there's nothing else to do. So they're all very polite to you over there, you know, which is okay. But in East Germany, they've got a lot more idea about what's happening in Western music, so they can all see West German television and hear West German radio. And among that is British Forces Radio, which is John Peel's show, broadcast the independent top 10 or whatever. So they're quite aware of what's happening over there. We went over there with the Neurotics and with Attila. So the Neurotics were quite at home because Harlow is very much like East Germany. Except Harlow hasn't got a good football team and Dresden has. But apart from that, it's very similar, all that concrete and stuff. I think the neurotics are at home. Lagers are a lot cheaper and all.